Good evening, creatures of the night. I hope you've been enjoying the Halloween hijinks stories as much as I have. Before we get into this episode, though, I wanted to give you a disclaimer. Now, every single story I've presented to you thus far, whether it be an encounter story, stories of my own experiences, or paranormal reports, they've all been based on factual eyewitness accounts. Tonight, that's not the case. We're straying away from actual stories for the first time ever. I have this book called The North American Monster Hunter's Guide. It talks about Bigfoot, Dogman, lake monsters, alien encounters, but every couple of pages it also talks about creatures that are so fantastical that it goes beyond belief. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, but I didn't want to put it out for an episode and then wait an entire another week to give you an episode of something that actually did happen. So I'm taking the opportunity during this month and all the bonus episodes to present this one to you. None of these I actually believe to exist. There are things like the jackalope, the coonigator, Batboy. I miss reading about Batboy in the Weekly World News. I really wish that they would bring that magazine back. I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was real. But, unlike that, nowadays, I don't believe any of these actually exist. So, tonight, it's just a fun episode, something to take a break from all the scary stories that we've been presenting, and I present to you tonight, Campfire Creatures. I hope you enjoy it. And remember, don't miss your chance to scream. The Cactus Cat. This creature resembles a bobcat, except for the fact it has bone spurs jutting from its front legs, a branched tail, and fur that's more like thorns than a pelt. They like to roam around the southwestern United States, around the deserts of California, Nevada, and New Mexico. They were first talked about by the 19th century pioneers and cowboys, as they told their tales of their sightings around their campfires. They're described as nocturnal creatures that wander the deserts looking for cactus, its only source of nutrition. The cactus cat would slash open a cactus with its bone spurs and drink the sap, getting drunk in the process. The cactus cat would then stumble around like a lousy drunk, and on rare occasions, it would attack people in its drunken state. The cactus cat has a wail that's unique to it, although it slightly resembles the wail of a mountain lion. The cactus cat is extremely territorial, though, and it will attack any animal that comes into its territory. These animals sometimes were left with fatal wounds from the cat. Most of the time, though, the animals would make it out alive, but they'd be left with serious puncture wounds. The cat sleeps in hollowed-out cactus in the daytime and is immune to the venom of scorpions. They can live up to 20 to 30 years. They're pair animals and mate for life. Before mating season, two females will usually be attracted to the scent of the cactus that the male cat splits open. The two female cats would then fight to the death, usually resulting in one female being stabbed to death with the bone claws of the other. The surviving female and the male would then intoxicate themselves with the cactus sap and mate. Cactus cat kittens are born blind and without spikes. The Gumberoo. The Gumberoo is a 4 to 6 foot tall carnivore that inhabits the Pacific Northwest. It looks exactly like a bear, except for the fact it's completely bald. Not one strand of hair on its entire body. But it does have very, very thick skin. Some people that hunt bears like to hunt this creature. What they don't know, it's impervious to bullets. It can't be killed. It's vicious. It will eat you. And It should be avoided at all costs. One thing people should know about this thing: if it's exposed to fire or lit on fire, it'll explode, taking you to the grave with it. The Squonk. Hanging around the hemlock forests of northern Pennsylvania is a peaceful and pitiful creature known as the Squonk. The Squonk is a vegetarian and only feasts on the forest shrubs and berries. It's described as the ugliest creature ever created, and this poor guy knows that. It's said that Squonks spend their days crying just about how ugly they are and hiding from anyone that might try to catch one. How ugly are they? They're 2 to 3 feet tall. Loose skin that's covered in warts, pimples, blemishes, whiskers, and moles pollute their body. Tracking a Squonk is easy though. You just have to follow the trail of teardrops and the sounds of his sobs. Catching a Squonk is another feat entirely though. He's been known to burst into a puddle of tears and bubbles when trapped. Squonks don't travel outside of the hemlock forest, and they only move around during dusk. Tracking them is easiest on cold, moonlit nights when their tears turn to ice. The Squonk also hates moving around when it's cold. Legend has it that around 1900, J.P. Wentling trapped a Squonk and decided to bring it back to town as proof of their existence. He carried it in a bag over his shoulder. But as time went on, he noticed the sack wasn't heavy anymore, and when he opened it, all he found was a puddle of tears. The Mulberry Black Thing. The Mulberry Black Thing can take the shape of anything. Some say it actually has no shape of its own, and merely takes the form of whatever karmatic fate its victims are subjected to. Some believe the Mulberry Black Thing is just energy that can manifest into whatever shape it wants. Poachers have been mauled while it resembles a black bear, while wayward travelers or lost hikers, they'll encounter a black bird or a black snake that will lead them back to their path of safety. Whatever is in your true heart of hearts, the Black Thing knows and will take advantage of that. The Black Thing has been talked about in Poplar Creek and Mossy Gap as long as anyone can remember. It can be seen in forests and lonely highways anywhere between Williamsburg, Kentucky and Jellicoe, Tennessee. It only ever comes out at night. Some believe it to be controlled by a witch, whose last name is Poor. Others believe it's a shapeshifter and has its own free will. It's been seen as a panther, a large hairy beast, and even a headless man. Several accounts talk about it landing on the hood of your car after an impossible leap. Your car will stall, and it won't work again until the Black Thing gets off of it. The Coonigator. Something weird and unnatural is raiding garbage cans and dumpsters in Montpelier, Vermont. People describe it as half raccoon, half alligator. It's the size of a raccoon. It has a thick gray coat, but its face looks just like an alligator. At first glance, they're sometimes mistaken for everyday raccoons, and it's only when an unfortunate soul is too close do they realize the Coonigator has come for their garbage, and it has its sights set on devouring all of their leftovers. They're nocturnal, just like a raccoon. But, unlike our little ring-tailed friend, these ferocious little guys are some kind of hybrid creature, and they're thought to be cold-blooded, just like an alligator. Sightings of these creatures are actually on the rise. So, what are they? A misidentification? A species that has evolved? Or something else entirely? Perhaps a new species altogether. The jackalope. Now, the jackalope is probably the most famous creature on this entire list. But how could I go about making a list of campfire creatures and not include the jackalope? If you don't know what a jackalope is, it's a North American hybrid of a jackrabbit and an antelope. More specifically, a jackrabbit with the horns of an antelope. They're brownish in color, weigh about 4 pounds on average, and are fast as lightning. Some estimate the top speed of a jackalope can reach up to 90 miles an hour. Jackalopes are considered dangerous. Hunters and trappers usually wear some kind of protective gear when trying to trap them. This helps them keep from being gored. One way to trap a jackalope is to offer it whiskey, which it can't say no to. Jackalopes are known to imitate the voices of people as they sit around campfires too. Cowboys of the Old West would talk about hearing their voices being mimicked by something out in the night. As the cowboys would sing around the campfire, the jackalope would often sing along. They only breed during flashes of lightning, and often enough fail to reproduce because the antlers get in the way of mating. Because of their problems successfully mating, jackalopes are thought to be one of the rarest animals in the world. Sometimes they're even thought to be extinct. The Hidebehind. So, nobody can actually describe what the Hidebehind looks like. Maybe it's because it's so good at hiding itself. This thing, according to legend, can suck its stomach in so efficiently, it could hide behind anything. Most of the time, it hides behind a tree trunk. That's where it hides when it stalks its prey. Us. Hunters, campers, hikers, people wandering in the forest, nobody's actually been able to look at this thing directly. So, nobody's ever got a good glimpse at it. But, it does get credit for many a missing person, especially loggers way back in the day that never returned to camp and were never seen again. Not a lot is actually known about this thing, except this. According to legend, it's nocturnal. It uses stealth to hunt and kill people in the woods. Then it drags its victims back to its lair and devours them. Namely, our intestines, which is like a delicacy for them. But from the few glimpses that people have actually caught of this thing, it's described as being large and powerful. Hodag. It has the head of a frog, the face of an elephant, short, thick legs that end in vicious claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long tail with a spear at the end. It can weigh upwards of 250 pounds, has short, thick green fur, glowing green eyes, horns, and can reach 7 feet long. This is Hodag, a monster of the North Woods of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It can snort fire and smoke out of its nostrils. It's a carnivore, and should be considered extremely dangerous. It eats turtles, snakes, oxen, and, on Sundays only, white bulldogs. It smells bad, like roadkill and skunk. Hodag is also a trickster, claiming golf balls and fishing lines as his own. He was first reported in 1893 by a newspaper reporter that claims a man named Eugene Shepard led a group of fearless men into the North Woods to hunt and kill the beast. Only thing it took to kill him was dynamite. Later, a photograph of his charred and disfigured body was shown to the media. The Hodag is fierce, territorial, and deadly. Penelope. Penelope was human once upon a time, but through some horrible circumstances was the victim of a devastating accident. Now she stands anywhere from 6 to 7 feet tall. She's a cannibal. She has tangled hair, big fangs, and long claws. And she stalks the Sierra Nevada mountains. Legend has it, she was mutated in an accident caused by toxic waste. She was in a car accident. She was the only one that survived. She spent years wandering the woods because she was lost. That's when she started to hide out in a metal barrel. What she didn't know was that metal barrel was contaminated because once upon a time, it contained toxic waste. After that, she started eating the animals of the forest just to keep herself alive. She killed them with her teeth, her hands. After that, she began eating human flesh, and just like the tales of a Wendigo, she started to transform. Now, she still lives out in the forest. Radioactive barrels and old abandoned shacks she calls home. Batboy. No report on Campfire creatures is complete without mentioning Batboy, my personal favorite of all the creatures talked about here tonight. He's a creature that's half human, half bat. He was captured by a scientist named Dr. Ron Dillon in a cave in West Virginia known as Hellhole Cave. When he was captured, he was only 2 feet tall and weighed 19 pounds. He grew quickly, ending up 5 feet tall and 80 pounds. It seems he sheds his wings every 3 years and replaces them with a new pair that he grows in their place. He was kept in a laboratory for years until he escaped and flew away into the night. To this day, he's still being hunted by the United States government. He's been caught numerous times, but always manages to find a way to escape. It's rumored that he now lives in abandoned sections of old subway system tunnels. For 2 decades, he was thought to be a one-of-a-kind monstrosity. But new evidence is showing that maybe he's just one member of a species. A race of creatures that have been interacting with us for over 400 years.